I was stressed out.
Today I'm standing on the battleground of Tippecanoe. This battle shaped world history more than you think. In 1809, William Henry Harrison, who is the governor of the Indiana Territory, purchased roughly 3 million acres of land from the native tribes of Miami, Potawatomi, and Lenape. A man named Tecumseh argued that this is not right, and said that the original inhabitants shouldn't have to give up their land to these people. He advocated to the people that they must unite to resist white settlement and return to traditional ways. He then established Prophetstown as a hub for this resistance. Tecumseh and his brother, Tenskwatawa, also known as the Prophet, start to carry out raids on American frontier settlements in the Indian Territory. These attacks meant to resist U.S. expansion and discourage settlement, escalating tension chance between native forces and Governor William Henry Harrison's troops. In late 1811, Tecumseh was away recruiting other tribes for their confederacy. His brother was left in charge of Prophetstown. As this settlement grew in size and influence, Indiana Territorial Governor William Henry Harrison believed that military force was the only effective way to deal with this threat. In response, Harrison assembled a force of nearly 1,000 soldiers to include militia, and began a march towards Prophetstown on November 6, 1811. Harrison's force arrived outside Prophetstown. However, they decided to make some peace negotiations and Harrison agreed, setting up camp near Brunette Creek, but Harrison had fallen into a trap. Harrison ordered his troops to sleep fully dressed and armed, and to keep fires blazing to illuminate the camp in case of an attack. The perimeter of the American camp was guarded by 2 sentries. The natives at Prophetstown were aware of the position of the American army. However, Prophetstown was not completely fortified. Because of this, at a war council meeting on the night of November 6, Tecumseh ordered a preemptive attack on the American army, specifically by sending a small stealth squad to kill Governor William Henry in his tent. Tecumseh, largely a spiritual leader of the Confederacy, promised to cast spells that would ensure his warriors would not be harmed. At around 4 a.m., the Native American initiated their assault. The right wing made up of Kickapoos was led by Chief Mangoatawa. The left wing was made up of Winnebago led by Chief Wawiapakusa. And the center was made up of Puawis led by Roundhead and Waba. Tecumseh did not fight in the battle. Instead, he chanted and cast spells to protect his men from injury during the battle. The Kickapoos reached the American camp before the other 2 groups. At around 4:30 a.m., they encountered an American sentry who managed to get a shot off before he was slain. This gunshot awoke many American soldiers, who were already prepared for battle. The natives reached the northwest corner of the camp by around 5:30 a.m. Kickapoos reached the American camp before the other 2 groups. At around 4:30 a.m., they encountered an American sentry who managed to get a shot off before he was slain. This gunshot awoke many American soldiers who were already prepared for battle. The natives reached the northwest corner of the camp by around 5:30 a.m. And at that same time, Harrison awoke from his tent. By this time, the Americans were made well aware of the native presence, which meant that the initial plan of sneaking in the camp to assassinate Harrison was out the window. As the native forces masked, they broke the line of American forces under Captain Robert Barden and Frederick Dyer. Harrison noticed this looming threat to the American position and reinforced the area with native militia. On the American line facing Prophetstown, Harrison saw a fierce battle ensuing in a grove of trees. The Americans took heavy fire, but with additional reinforcements, they were able to hold their line. On the northern end of the battle, Major Davis led his dragoons on a countercharge against the native forces. However, in the fierce skirmish that ensued, Major Davis was killed and his force then retreated to Harrison's main line. On the line facing Prophetstown, American forces beat back native warriors and cleared the grove in which they previously fought. On the southern end of the camp, the Indiana Yellow Jackets came under heavy fire from the Winnebagos and were unable to hold their line. The commander of the Yellow Jackets, Captain Spear Spencer, was shot twice in the leg and once in the head, but continued to encourage his men to fight on. When he was lifted up by some of his men, he was shot in the torso and instantly died. Harrison moved to reserve companies to assist the now disheveled Yellow Jackets and finally filled the breach in the line. Several more skirmishes were fought around the camp until 7:00 a.m. The remaining native forces realized they were outnumbered by 2 to 1, so they decided to withdraw from the battle. William Henry Harrison had won the battle, and Tenskwatawa had lost the battle. American forces sustained 188 casualties, with 62 killed and 126 wounded. Tenskwatawa's forces sustained an estimated 50 killed and 75 wounded. The natives retreated to Prophetstown and confronted Tecumseh, accusing him of being a fraud for letting their warriors die. Tecumseh urged his men to form a second attack. However, they refused. The entire population of Prophetstown completely abandoned the city that night. In 2 hours, this battle was over. The next day on November 8, Harrison sent a small force to Prophetstown, who discovered it completely abandoned. Harrison ordered the city to be completely burnt to the ground. They destroyed the entire town and it became a part of the history books. But it was never 100% forgotten. Indiana made it a state park in 2008. It was created to commemorate the historic Native American village. Tecumseh was furious at his brother, the Prophet, for fighting the Battle of Tippecanoe. After the destruction of Prophetstown, Tecumseh retreated southward to regroup. He sought to rebuild the Confederacy, traveling through the southern tribes, urging them to join his cause. Tecumseh aligned with the British in the War of 1812, hoping their support would strengthen his resistance against American expansion. He played a crucial role in the Siege of Detroit in 1812, helping secure a significant victory. Tecumseh continued to fight alongside the British throughout the war until his death at the Battle of the Thames in 1813. Marking the end of his leadership and the decline of the Native American Confederacy. Tecumseh was killed at the Battle of the Thames in 1813, during the War of 1812, while fighting alongside British forces. His death dealt a devastating blow to the pan-Native Confederacy he had built, leading to the collapse of Native American resistance against American expansion. Without his leadership, many Native tribes were left divided and unable to effectively resist U.S. territorial expansion, leading to further loss of land and sovereignty. Next time you hear at the Battle of Tippecanoe, remember that it's not just a blank stare, it's a turning point in history. The victory vaulted William Henry Harrison into national stardom, earning him the nickname Old Tippecanoe. This fame carried him to the White House in 1840 under the famous campaign slogan, "Tippecanoe, and Tyler too." This battle was a tragedy for the natives, because now they couldn't halt American expansion. This meant they were going to suffer horrendous atrocities by the United States. They were horrendous events like the Sand Creek Massacre, the Indian Removal Act by Andrew Jackson, the California Genocide, and much more.